Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna begins his sermon to Arjuna. As you all know, chapter 1 is just a depiction of Arjuna's sorrow because he's unprepared to face life and its challenges. This is the problem. We are completely unprepared. See, if you really analyze how much are you dependent upon the world for your peace and happiness, you must ask yourself that all the time. And the answer is invariably, literally 100%, totally dependent on the world. And the world is constantly changing. So, are you prepared for that change? See, last week some of us had gone to a memorial service, one of our close students, very unfortunate. He died suddenly, young, early 50s. So, we all go to such a place and you think, oh, it's very sad. But invariably, you believe deep inside, it can't happen to me. Perfectly healthy, and he contracted something and died. So, are you prepared? Whether it's death, whether it's finances, whether it's your children not having the same relation, how many people are tormented? You're not prepared. See, you don't understand when they have their own family and life. They lose that priority for you. It's fine. You must be prepared for it, if at all that happens. Nobody is prepared for anything. So Arjuna, in spite of being such an accomplished warrior, is totally unprepared to fight the war that he himself had chosen to fight. So you go into your life, in your work also, are you prepared? All the time stressed and agitated for no reason, because totally unprepared to face life. Relationships, typical example. Not even talking about death, which will happen. Jara, Mrityu is as old age, disease and death is inevitable. So nobody is prepared at all. So what he talks about in the beginning of this chapter is you have to shift your focus to the permanent, because this world is impermanent. You're looking for permanent happiness, and the only place that exists is the Atman, the God principle, the spirit, the soul within you. So you have to shift your focus within sooner or later. That's the famous verse we did at the retreat last weekend. Some of you were there. Satyameva jayate nanrutam. In fact, it's the slogan of India. India uses that as its slogan. Satyameva Jayate. Truth alone wins. See, what that means is the truth is the self. Ultimately, you have to seek the self, whether you like it or not, because that is your real nature. That is what you want. So, why are you wasting your time seeking something which you don't want, which is the world? Satyameva Jayate. Nanritam. Never untruth. Truth alone wins, never untruth. Satyena pantha vitato devayana. And truth lays out that divine path by which the sages reach that ultimate abode. So that's from the Upanishads, which we studied last weekend. So no clue what's going on. Caught up in a falsehood. Your beliefs are false. The belief that the world will give you that peace you seek is a false belief. And you live your life based on that belief. Now, what can anybody tell you? So, what should you do? Is what he talks about in this section, 31 to 40, where we are on, right? So, he says, you are a Kshatriya, means a warrior. Your nature is to fight. So, you must fight, but for a higher purpose. Loka Sangram. If you do that, you will get closer to enlightenment and you will also find peace and happiness in this world. In fact, since you are peaceful, you'll be so productive and efficient. So you'll get everything, but you have to dedicate yourself to a higher purpose. And the easiest way to do that is to find your own field, that field which you're inclined, which is your inherent nature. That is called Swadharma. Because you enjoy that field, so it's easier to shift your focus higher. So both ways you win. In fact, somebody had I think Malini had a question, right? Can you put that up? Sentence in this context, that's why I'm taking it up. How do I know what my Swadharma is? Arjuna, as a Kshatriya fighting a righteous war, was his Swadharma. How does one realize what their Swadharma is? Malini, this you should have found out when you're a teenager. I'm not joking, because Swadharma refers to the choice of action you should take for your life. So on what basis do you choose? So many of you are parents. This is how you can help. The problem is, by lecturing to your children on all wrong things, they don't listen to you. So when you want to tell them a right thing, no chance they'll listen. But if they are available, this is how you guide them. That you should follow a field based on your inherent nature. So yesterday I was we were having lunch and there was a 13-year-old there. So we were asking him, what do you want to do? He says, I want to be a NFL reserve kicker. We said, why? Because you don't have to go into the field and you'll get your money. Just look at how he's no chance of injury and money also. Fantastic. And then his father said at 11, he said he wanted to be a firefighter. So this is not Swadharma, right? He's just attracted by something they see. Swadharma is, in and through these various attractions, there'll be a basic tendency. Like he's inclined to mechanics and engineering, or all the time he's thinking of money and business and investment, or all the time medicine and how the body works. This is the Swadharma. It's a predominant interest. So even now, what you must analyze is, what is your predominant interest? And as much, suppose you can't do it full time because you've already chosen a field of action, at least you must give it the maximum expression. as much as possible. So, like people say, I really want to learn this knowledge. I feel that is my real calling nature. But you can't. You got too many obligations. But at least you must give this your full time, not full time, but full expression as much as possible. So you study in the morning, you do karma, you do your devotion, whatever. So at this stage in life, one has to steer it as much as possible. If you can't take it up full time. But in terms of the career path, it is absolutely disastrous if you take paradharmic. Because morning to evening, for your entire career, you have to fight against your mind because you don't want to do it. And you have to do it. I can't think of anything worse. See, I came to America and took up the study of business and finance. I thought I wanted to be in Wall Street. And then I realized that is not my swadharma. It was just an attraction, like all kids have, high finance and this and that. So, in fact, that field was set. I had so many offers and would have made tons of money. I'm pretty sure of that. But and left that and went to a. See, now the academy is made properly. That time it was literally a god-forsaken wilderness, literally. And the food you get there now is like a 7-star hotel compared to what we used to get. Chuda for breakfast. I mean, there's a limit. It's so. Chuda means nothing substantial. That's what those of you don't understand. Like a snack. So, but that was the swadharma. So every moment, it was, even though you may feel, oh, what are you? It was so enjoyable because you were doing what you were meant to do. So that's how you find it. You identify those traits which are with you throughout and which are so strong they don't leave you. So the test is, even if you're in another field making a lot of money, let's say you inherited your father's business, you just have to sit there and money comes. But all the time you're thinking of medicine, I wish I had become a doctor. Then that was your swadharma, right? Even though you're doing well here, you're sitting in the business. All the time you're thinking. So and then he sort of provokes Arjuna in the last few verses we did. Like, if you run away from the battle, all your peers, your enemies will make fun of you. That pokes his ego. And Arjuna reacts to that. So in 37, he starts with the practical benefits of this knowledge, not the spiritual benefit, but the benefit you get in this world. Because that's what we are all concerned with. How is this knowledge going to help me now? So before we get there, any clarification so far in the text? 37.
हतो वा प्राप्स्यसि स्वर्गम् जित्वा वा भोक्ष्यसे महीम् तस्मादुत्तिष्ठ कौन्तेय युद्धाय कृतनिश्चयः हतो वा प्राप्स्यसि स्वर्गम् जित्वा वा भोक्ष्यसे महीम् तस्मादुत्तिष्ठ कौन्तेय युद्धाय कृतनिश्चयः.
Either slain you will attain heaven, or victorious you will enjoy the earth. Therefore arise, O Kaunteya, determined to fight. So, heaven, as we have talked about, is not a geographical place. Now, this is the misunderstanding. Heaven refers to a state of mind where it is peaceful. So, these are all symbolic terms. Either slain. Slain means to the extent you dissolve your ego, to the extent you work genuinely, selflessly, without any ego, you will be peaceful in the future. Your selfish desires fall off, your mind is permanently peaceful. You are in heaven. And victorious, you will enjoy the earth. What it means is, when your mind is peaceful, your action becomes very productive. We've talked about that. How you become successful is if you can focus, concentrate on your actions properly. Obviously, they'll be successful. If a child is studying for his exam and while he's studying, he can concentrate fully on his books, he'll do well. The problem is, you're sitting with the books, the mind is all over the place. Same thing happens to us. We have no focus, no concentration. Like Josh Billings says, be like the postage stamp. Its success lies in the ability to stick to one thing till it gets there. Hmm? Right? So learn from the postage stamp. It sticks to the envelope till it gets to its destination. This is how you become successful. I know fellows, you can count the number of businesses they've started on your fingers and toes also won't be enough. All failures. They can't concentrate. Somebody says something, okay, let's start that. Somebody says something else, let's start. It doesn't work that way. Like I said, you got to choose your swadharmic field, set a goal and stick to it. Then you'll be successful. So both ways you will have. So when you learn Vedanta, you will be successful now and in the future. Even if you don't attain enlightenment, you'll be in a heavenly state, because sorrow is all because of selfishness. So if you're genuinely unselfish, you'll be peaceful. See, that is beautifully explained in that poem by William Wordsworth, Lidomia. So Wordsworth read the Gita and he put these concepts across in his poems, like daffodils we explained, right? It's pure Vedanta. Similarly, Lidomia is a much longer poem, definitely nowhere close to being known as the daffodils, but it's incredible. It's there in the Select English Poems book. You should read it. The language is just out of this world, But the principle he talks about. So Lidomia is attached to her husband Protaselos, who's a Greek prince who dies in the battle with the Trojans. And so she's praying to God, how could you do this to me? She's obviously heartbroken and she's crying and crying. So Jove, who's the Greek god, he grants her 3 hours with Protaselos. But that's it. His ghost is all symbolic. There's nothing, you can't take it literally, obviously. So the whole poem is a conversation between Protaselos and Lidomia. And he's trying to educate her that you are selfish and attached. That's why you're suffering. I was selfless. He wasn't being egoistic. He's being factual. Therefore, I'm in heaven. So it's all symbolic. So what he did is, those days they used to believe a lot in the oracle, the Delphic oracle. So the oracle said the Greeks will win the war But the first Greek who sets his foot on the Trojan soil, that person will die. So you all can imagine what's happening. The whole Greek armada is crossing the sea across to Troy, which is supposed to be in present day Turkey, just across from Greece. And they're all standing there, not going, because all the Greeks know whoever goes first will die. So nobody wants to jump. So Protasilus jumped and died. So he is explaining what his thoughts were. Bitter, oft times bitter was the pang, beloved wife, when of thy loss I thought. On thee too fondly did my memory hang, and the joys we shared in mortal life. These paths we had trod, these fountains, flowers, my new planned cities and unfinished towers. So what he's saying is, I want to jump, but then my attachment to you, my power, my kingdom, all that came. So should I jump or not? Right? This is the whole spiritual predicament. You're attached to the lower. You want to achieve the higher, but you can't give up the low. That's the problem. Old frailties then recurred, but lofty thought in act embodied my deliverance wrought. Now that's what you have to. So the frailty will come, but you have to be strong. In act embodied my deliverance wrought. So once I acted, I was delivered to heaven. For fearless virtue bringeth boundless gain. That's the main line of that poem. For fearless virtue bringeth boundless gain. You have to have that strength, then you become infinite. Boundless gain. That's the main thing. So, there is the world, there is the self, but you're so attached. And none of you have to leave also any the world. What you fellows all sitting and attached to the world. None of you will have to leave. I won't recommend. You'll make a mess at the academy also. You're so attached. So you don't have to leave, but at least to some extent you must detach, no? And put your mind to these principles, this knowledge. So to the extent you do that, you will be in heaven. But you don't because you're so attached, so involved. So he says, that's what it means here. Either slain doesn't mean literally death. Like Protasilus died, it's all symbolic. To the extent you slay your ego, your egocentric desire, you're in heaven. Remember that. You slay it fully, you're enlightened. So heaven refers to the relative bliss of spiritual growth. And enlightenment is the absolute. So what we must focus on is not enlightenment. What you must focus on is what? Practically. What should you focus on? How much can I reduce my selfishness, my egocentric desires in my day-to-day life? I keep saying that and nobody follows because the selfishness is so strong. So every time you're faced with that predicament, you must put in that effort. No, I'm not going to be selfish. That's it. Then you're being truly spiritual. Even when you're fighting with your spouse, ego, why he should listen to me, she should listen. Let the other person have their way. That is being spiritual. Why my selfishness is coming? The fellow do what they want. At least this much you must let go. That also you won't let go. Your child came second. You have jealousy towards that fellow who came first. Why? Why am I being egoistic? My child. It's okay. He did the best he could. Somebody else did better. Should be happy for that person. So these small things matter. I gave you that quote recently, right? Oscar Wilde. Every little action of the common day makes or unmakes your character. It's every little action of the day. You do something good, then you negate it with something negative. So you have to constantly do in one direction every little thing. That's what will help you grow spiritually. Not sitting and listening to these lectures. No, this is also good. But just this is not going to help you. This is important, of course. You have to gain the knowledge. Otherwise, how will you put in the effort? What are you doing the rest of the day? Therefore, arise, O Kaunteya, determined to fight. Ah, yes. Renu?
Hariom Gautamji, you've often said that one test of selfishness is when you're agitated. It's whenever we are agitated, we say, what is the selfishness behind it that I'm agitated? Other than this test, is there any other test for recognizing our selfishness?
This is the easiest because it's a direct reaction in your mind. So whenever you're agitated, you must go introvert. Why did I get disturbed? Locate the selfishness behind it and work on it. That's why I say it's the most practical thing to do. Now, other things are more difficult because you have to analyze. Here, you're actually going through a reaction immediately. So it's easiest. So, other things would be preferential attachment. Why am I feeling for just my child, not other children? See, that is more difficult to recognize. But that is another test. Where am I preferential? In my feeling. There you're selfish. Why are you feeling towards certain people only and not others? So how will you recognize that? It's almost impossible. How dependent are you on the world? Have you ever thought of that? If this person is no longer there, will I be the same? These are the ways to recognize selfishness, where you're dependent, where you're preferentially attached. But agitation is the easiest.
Okay.
Because where you're disturbed, immediately you can get that feedback. Yes, why did I get disturbed? If your intellect is available, otherwise there also you won't. You're disturbed, first thing is you cause the disturbance. Because I have such a mad husband, I'm disturbed. That is what you believe. Or because my boss is like that, I'm disturbed. Because my child is like that. Because my government is like that. Nobody will say, I'm agitated, it's my fault. Even that is so difficult and you want more things. So first work on that. But there are other things. Like I just explained. So any spiritual person will be constantly on the lookout for where they can improve. Any unspiritual person will constantly be on the lookout where others are wrong, where others should improve. So if you're truly spiritual, it's a full-time occupation to correct yourself. Why would you be bothered about others? Not that you're not bothered, but you have no control over that. You only can control what you are. So work on that. Alok.
Gautamji, in addition to this disturbance, can you also use like cravings or excitement? Like too much excitement is agitation.
Yes, craving means desire, which is agitation. That is not this thing. Excitement in the sense if you are lost in it, right? So these fluctuations is another sign. A spiritual person is constantly peaceful, but you're fluctuating between joys or all the time agitated, suddenly happy. That is also a sign. See, excitement means some desire, agitation is fulfilled. So it has to be preceded by an agitation, any desire. So it's easier to look into the cause, no? Why you have to wait till you indulge in the desire? I have a desire for drugs. Then I had a drug and now I'm feeling great. So now I'll know I am selfish. Why you're waiting to have a drug? Hello, go one step before that. Agitation level itself, you must catch it. In fact, what you're asking is what he's saying now in 38. Treating alike pleasure and pain, gain and loss, victory and defeat. That is an effect. So when you are working on your self development, you must learn not to let these fluctuations disturb you. But we are talking how. That is to remove that selfishness, that agitation which is causing. 38.
सुख दुःखे समे कृत्वा लाभालाभौ जयाजयौ ततो युद्धाय युज्यस्व नैवं पापमवाप्स्यसि सुख दुःखे समे कृत्वा लाभालाभौ जयाजयौ ततो युद्धाय युज्यस्व नैवं पापमवाप्स्यसि.
Treating alike sukhe dukhe, pleasure and pain, labha alabha, gain and loss, jaya ajaya, victory and defeat. Then get ready for battle. Thus you will not incur sin. So here he is giving the consequence if you don't function for a higher purpose selflessly. So what happens is these three are symbolic of the pairs of opposites in the world. Pleasure and pain refer to the mental level, gain and loss to the material level, victory and defeat at the level of the ego. So, at all levels, people want their desires to be fulfilled. So what is the consequence of that? Not only are you affected, as we were just discussing, when it is not fulfilled, you are agitated. When it is fulfilled, you are elated. Temporarily, again the agitation will come. But that fluctuation is there. And in the future, you are creating sin because you are acting with these desires, selfish desires, so you will create more desires. So, in philosophy, sin is the mental reaction which will come from your current action. Nothing to do with the action per se. So, philosophically, when you act selfishly, you create more vasanas, more desires, which further agitate your mind in the future. That's what Oliver Goldsmith says, when he says, where wealth accumulates, men decay. There's nothing wrong with wealth. But that accumulative spirit you see in the world, it's become so sick. People with a millions and billions just craving for more, degrading themselves as human beings, rather than using that wealth, excess wealth. You can keep whatever you need for yourself, for the benefit of the world. What a world it would be. So they destroy themselves, live a life of complete sin, constant agitation. So, how should you act then? You have to act in the world, I just told you, for a higher purpose. So, when you do that, how come you are treating alike pleasure, pain, gain, loss, victory, defeat? How is it possible? I've told you. Anyone? See, these are the consequences that come out of your action. How can you be equanimous to them, indifferent to them, and still be acting?
Simply focusing on what ought to be done.
When you're focusing on what ought to be done. Yes, so how is that making you indifferent to these results of the action?
The action you're doing because you like it and dislike.
No, that is the right action. Doing it because you ought to do it, regardless of likes and dislikes. Vasu?
Gautamji, I think, the reason you don't feel it is all these are manifestations of the result. So your action, you're acting for, for the sake of action itself, right? So you're not focused on the result. All these are manifestations.
But
of the
how
result.
but when the result comes, how can you be indifferent to it? That is the whole question. Yes, Krishna.
Whatever I learned from you, Gautamji, by being selfless and sort of detached from, do your work to the best of your abilities, but not really get attached to the outcome. Being selfless in some sense.
Yes, but how does that make you indifferent is the question. Udaya?
I would say by focusing on the purpose of the action, not so winning or losing cannot be the purpose of the action.
That's what everybody's been saying. You're just repeating that you're functioning selflessly. You're right. Jayu?
I can't unmute.
I can hear you. You already unmuted.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, right. By being objective?
Being objective. How does that make you indifferent? See, you got to come down to brass tacks. What does it mean? Suchitra?
I hope I'm unmuted, but I cannot see the video, but that's okay. So, again, just an example. If I have a habit, say, of giving, so if I go to a grocery store and they say, okay, can you donate $2 for hunger? I just automatically do it.
Right.
I'm not feeling every time excited about it.
Right.
So I think by practicing that, there comes a time when you are not, it becomes your daily habit kind of thing. Yes, maybe if I am able to someday donate to somebody $1 million, maybe I'll get excited about it for 5 days. But right now, giving $5 to somebody doesn't give me that excitement.
So that then again is dependent on the fruit. Because you don't have $1 million, you're not excited. $5 you have excited. That is not the point. Money.
Gautamji, my thinking is if to be indifferent to that, my value for that has to drop. So my value will drop if I have a higher value for something else.
Yes, that is why you're doing it, because you understand there's a higher goal, there's a better way of living than this selfishness. You're right. But what actually happens, which makes you indifferent, is the question. See, I'm asking you all because you all should think. And that's how your intellect will start functioning, It's like in physical therapy, they say the muscle is inactive. First make it active. Then we'll talk of strengthening. It's not active only. It's never been used. Now what to do? This is, at least muscles automatically they use when you're walking this thing. This muscle you have to use. Yeah, Saurabh.
Kadamji, your attention is on higher purpose. Your attention is not on your selfish desire. So
I'm saying you're saying when the action is going on, but when the result comes, how are you indifferent? See, because we can't go on indefinitely. That's why you must understand the pleasure and satisfaction you gain from doing the action, from performing the action, is far superior to getting the result. This is what will happen. So every moment you're enjoying, you're completely indifferent. When you say higher, you must explain what it means. Higher, lower, what is it? Then Suchitra is saying higher, lower is $5, higher $1 million. There is no meaning. That is not what we mean. Whether it's $5 or $1 million, the point is, and it's nothing to do with money, it's that attitude of wanting to serve. See, now I'm talking to all of you. This action of teaching itself should give me the highest satisfaction if it's done properly. I did what I ought to do to the best of my ability. But if while talking I'm thinking how many people are attending, how many people will become followers, how many will help us or not help us, it will be a torture literally for me to talk. Trust me. Torture is not the word. That's what you're doing to yourself, torturing yourself unnecessarily. Every action you do, what am I getting out of it? Will it help me? Will my reviews be good? Will my boss be impressed? Will my employees be impressed? Why? So number one, Swadharma, right field you choose according to your nature. 2, you're working for a higher purpose. 3, simply plunge into the action. Do what ought to be done. So that should give you the satisfaction. Now many of you are parents. Why are you tortured? Because it's all about the result. How will my child come out? Will they be successful? You do what you ought to do to the best of your ability. That should be the beginning and the end. Nothing else. What they come out is not in your control. What they're doing in college is in your control. So absurd, People call, did you study today in college? What will the child say? Is 500 miles away. Of course I studied. Morning to evening I was studying. Whole day he was partying. What is he going to tell you? Whole day I was actually, from morning I did this, then I went there, then we... How absurd it is, I can't even... So, this is life. This is Vedanta. And if you do that, not only will you be in a far higher state of happiness now, you don't need anything, but your existing desires, selfish desires, will drop off. And then you go back to the previous verse. You'll be in even more pleasure in the future because you don't have to deal with your selfish desires. What a life. What a life you'll have. So nobody understands these principles. It's not easy to understand and explain. So anybody talks, just do what you ought to do. Sounds very good. I've been doing whatever I ought to do. If I'm in miserable, you'll say. If you say nobody, they fellow will not know what to answer. So treating alike pleasure and pain, gain and loss, victory and defeat. Get ready for battle. Thus you will not incur sin. And you will be doing the best possible job you can do because you're focusing on the action. So Arjuna is a warrior. Focus on the next arrow where you're going to shoot. Keep doing that. Enjoy that. You can't do better than that in this world. That is why no Vedantin will ever need a vacation or a weekend. You may take it, but you will not need it. Now from Wednesday afternoon onwards, now it's become not even Friday. Because he told me. Who told me? Kem. Kemraj. See, he's in the corporate world. Kem, what did you say? Wednesday afternoon is what? Hump day. So, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, your agitation is going up. It reaches the maximum point Wednesday morning. Then Wednesday afternoon, you start thinking of the weekend. So that agitation level goes a little down. So Wednesday morning is hump. The camel hump, you see, the highest point of your agitation. They have terms for all this nonsense. All the nonsensical terms he fully knows. Any verse in the Gita you ask, I don't know what. And TGIF. Thank God. Why is it not TGIM? That's what my guru says. Why can't you? In fact, we have a t-shirt, TGIM. I don't wear it here because it'll put me straight on asylum. One fellow, once I wore it by mistake because there was no other shirt. And one lady is asking me, which school is this TGIM? She thought it's some Institute of Management. She thought Institute of Management, but TG she didn't know. Then I said, thank God, Institute of Management. I just had to make up something. So I've never heard of this. That is a very rural area, nobody knows. So if I said, thank God it's Monday, she'll look at me like, but we have a t-shirt we made. So it will be like that. Monday or Friday should make no difference. Because when it's the weekend, you enjoy the weekend. When it's work, you enjoy work. Why do you have to run away? Because of selfishness. The mind disturbs you all the time. So your definition of happiness is to run away from your work. 4:30 p.m. everybody is jittery every day. And then Friday, forget it. Don't talk to anybody. Don't talk to me after noon on Friday because it's too agitated too much excitement to go home. And then don't talk to me Monday morning because I'm too agitated. When to talk to you? I don't know when to talk to anybody. Umesh, yeah, you can. I know when to talk to you.
Gautamji, here it talks about right actions reduce vasana and wrong actions increase vasana. How do we know which is right action and wrong action? Because every action we take, we think that's the right action.
That is the problem.
If we thought it is wrong action, we wouldn't be taking that action.
See, the problem is, if you talk like this, what it means is you've not understood the knowledge, right, properly, obviously. So, you must have a reference by which you understand what is right and wrong. So, as you gain the knowledge of Vedanta, you will understand the right actions are those which take you towards the self, which make you evolve. Wrong actions are the selfish, desire-ridden action which take you away. So you'll have a clear frame of reference. So working selflessly for a higher purpose is the right action because it reduces your vasanas. That's what we've just been discussing. So if you are still confused as to that, obviously you need to gain more knowledge. You need more guidance. You need to ask somebody if you're confused. You're not able to decipher it on your own, which is understandable. It's not a wrong thing, because you don't have the ability to see both sides of the equation. So that happens. Yes, Tiger.
In this verse, is the concept of treating alike pleasure and pain similar to ending perception with perception, and that if a painful thing happens, we acknowledge it and then put it down, and that is what it is?
No, see, now that's a different concept. I wouldn't bring it in here, because here he's talking about the result of the action while you're acting. So when you are acting, you're acting for a particular result which will bring you pleasure. You want to avoid the negative result which will bring you pain. That's what he's focusing on here. That is a different concept. That is, after the action is over, don't linger in it. Move on to the next action. That's a totally different concept, which we will get to when we get to it. So what you need to do is understand each concept in its entirety. Before you understand one concept, I would not bring in another concept, because that will create confusion. And all these different concepts you understand, that takes a while, and then you get the whole picture of life. So we all need to focus on each thing. You clear? Jayu?
Patanji, the thing that you said was work in Swadharma, work for higher purpose, and enjoy the work. If you do it to the best of your ability, that'll give you your happiness. All of these are intentional. That means you choose your Swadharma, you choose this. Can this happen unintentionally? You just land in your Swadharma and, you really enjoy working in that. So you enjoy your Monday mornings. Can that happen unintentionally?
Yes, a person who may not have learned this but has chosen his field of Swadharma and is relatively unselfish, he will face that result. But since it is all done without intellect, other places they will lose their objectivity and suffer. It's like a person who's very talented in tennis and somehow got good guidance when he was young will excel in that field. But he won't know how to handle other parts of his life. How many tennis players are devastated by bankruptcy after their playing career and all? They were not able to apply their intellect in that area. In their relationships, all full mess. They're in depression, all kinds of issues. So they just happen to be so talented. Even if they were not working unselfishly, they'll win because they're so talented. That is different. We're not talking about that. Why do you want to? That can happen to anybody. By chance, you got a very good husband. You didn't choose or choose and all that. That fellow got the problem, not you. So why you bothered about that now? You be happy what you got. But consciously, if you had chosen that, then it would be different. By chance, you get something. So, in our next her question will be after 2 months. By chance, is it okay to get enlightenment? It's not going to happen. So I know what's coming next. I got this by chance. Why not enlightenment also? It doesn't work that way. Mind will take over somewhere. 39.
Esha te bhita sankhye buddhir yoge tvimam shrinu buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. Esha te bhita sankhye Buddhir-yoge tvimam shranu Buddhya yukto yaya partha Karma bandham prahasyasi.
This is the wisdom of Sankhya taught to you. Now listen to the wisdom of yoga, endowed with which, O Partha, you shall cast off the bond of action. So, when he talks of Sankhya, in fact, this chapter is titled Sankhya Yoga, the path of knowledge, the yoga of knowledge. So, yoga, just for the sake of some of you who may not know, yoga means to join, to unite. So, anything you do to unite to the self is actually called yoga, not the yoga which is marketed today in the world. That is a physical discipline of exercise and breathing. The spiritual discipline consists of this Sankhya, understanding the distinction between the real and the unreal. That's how you start this process. So here in this context, yoga refers to karma, action. So he says in 11 to 25, what he's saying is, I have taught you the highest knowledge of the distinction between the real and the unreal. At least introduced it to you. Now let me elaborate, which he's been actually doing, but he wants to elaborate more. Let me elaborate on the karma portion, the action, which will be far more understandable to you. That's what he's trying to tell Arjuna. So the wisdom of yoga refers to, in fact, what is the word used here? Buddhi yoga, the yoga of intellect, actually. That's what it means. So he's talked about wisdom of yoga. He's saying the yoga of intellect, endowed with which you shall cast off the bond of action. Bond of action means the bond of desires, attachment, which is the impediment between you and the self. So, yoga of intellect refers to here action propelled by the intellect. So, if you are just contemplating on the self, that is a very high state, which he calls Sankhya. You're contemplating between the real and the unreal. It doesn't apply to most of us. Even if it applies, it's a small portion of the day, right? Early in the morning, you're engaged in this contemplation, reading, thinking, listening. But rest of the day, what should we do? You must act with your intellect. This is called Buddhi Yoga. So Arjuna is an extroverted person. Like all of us, he needs action. He can't sit and contemplate all day. It's not possible. It's a very high state. So what is more relatable to Arjuna? How should I act in this world? You got it? That's what he's talking about. And with this, you will be completely released from this bondage of desires and attachment. Yes, Sundar, you had something?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, so earlier with BP, you were talking about not focusing on the result. The way you overcome not being impacted by the result is focusing on the action, taking joy from what you do on a day-to-day basis. But that also talks about, but even in that context, there's some satisfaction, right? So for instance, if I evolve to the point where I truly enjoy my work for the sake of, going to, no TGIF, I enjoy Fridays. But what happens when I retire? I don't have that, right? So is there still some satisfaction I'm deriving even from the action, even though I'm performing the right action? I don't worry about the results. I'm enjoying the action, but we are still using the word enjoy or satisfaction. So will that create a vacuum so that when that goes away, I'm still left unsatisfied?
No. See, you may retire from a job or a business. That doesn't mean you should stop action. Then you focus on what are the actions that will continue helping you evolve. Only an enlightened person is what you are talking about, who's completed the journey towards the self. That person is reveling in infinite bliss. He doesn't need to find enjoyment in action, even though they act for the sake of others. So, right till enlightenment, whether you are working in a job or whether you are in a business, you have to keep focusing on what are the actions I need to take me there. So you're retired, then you work on how you can serve others in whatever best capacity. If you're retired from business or earning, you don't need to earn more wealth for yourself. What about the world? Have the world stopped suffering? So what are we talking? So you have to find the next course of action that will help you evolve spiritually and you will find the same satisfaction as you had before. Why should that go? So it doesn't matter what action it is, it's the attitude. And that will continue right till you hit enlightenment. It is a full-time pursuit. Even your work is just a means to that pursuit, if you really take it in the right spirit. Got it? So in the Upanishads, what is the prayer? Chatam gum samaha. Maybe kurvanneveha karmani. Chatam gum. Maybe live for 100 years doing karma. They don't understand what is retirement. The retirement concept is a highly destructive concept. You never retire. As long as you're able, you go on acting. Field may change. Your attitude to act doesn't change. Got it? So we will, if you have any questions, you can send them. I'll take them on Wednesday. Otherwise, we will meet over the weekend next week, as usual. Hari Om.